Welcome back to another session of character modeling with me, Smoore. Um, so I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I wanted to see what the model would actually look like. It's kind of like I couldn't resist. I needed to kind of see if she was actually going to look all right with some textures, and also particularly wanted to try out the hair. So what we have here is kind of a game engine. We've got PBR type shaders on her, and I'm definitely feeling it. Just kind of seeing the model in kind of more like final context. I'm feeling it's energizing me. I'm thinking, okay, it's got some potential here. There's some work to be done, a lot of work to be done. My wife pointed out the colors on the skirt and the halter top aren't really working, and myself, I think the hair, I want to add more randomness to it, and definitely, particularly with the spiky things on the back that stick up from the back of her head. That was always, I feel like, well, it's very stylized, and I'm not sure how it's going to work if I try a more realistic approach to the hair. But I think if I were to skinny them up, add a little bit more randomness to it, and particularly little flyaways, I think some little fine strands, things like that could help a lot. Today I want to take a look at the high-res legs actually. So I think, as promised, we're going to go and look at how to make that kind of complex lattice work that is her cybernetic legs and all the stuff that's filling in the spaces. I think I have an interesting approach to that you guys might enjoy. So it's going to involve some poly paint. It's going to involve a little bit of ZBrush, a little bit of Maya, and then in the future episode we'll go back into ZBrush. Cool. As you may recall, at the beginning of this process back when we started modeling this character, we built her over a skeleton, an existing skeleton, and we used that skeleton to put the character into a pose, and then took that into ZBrush and started fixing all the weird stuff here and polishing up the sculpt. But we're now going to start looking at these cybernetic legs. So we're going to model these like robotic legs, and I'm going to jazz up the boots as well. So our goal for this session is basically these guys here. So these legs they're about halfway along. They're not done yet, but we want to, we've got the basic structure there, and it needs some detailing. And as you can see, these work with the skeleton. The joints, the joints will pivot about this nice little axis here. I just grab the IK handle. You can see that, yeah, she works pretty good. The pistons coming down from the thighs, I would have to do I'll probably do a set-driven key for that. Yeah, you get the idea. So the idea is that these things will work, that this character could actually be animated, and it would feel logical that these things could actually be robotic legs and not some hokey thing I slapped together. Alright, let's jump in our time machine now, and we're going to start with the skeleton. So right out of the gate, the most important thing is that we want this model to articulate. We want it to be animatable. So when we build these legs, we're going to have to build them around the skeleton. So I'm beginning here with a cylinder, which we'll use as a guide for her knee joint. And I want the cylinder is literally going to represent the pivot point of the knee on the robotic leg. So I want it to be a little bit wider than her knee itself, so I can trace around it on her leg. And I think it would be a bit narrower than that. Cool. So looking at the concept again, the other thing we'll want to do, or I want to do with this leg, is to separate out the patella structure here, so that I think the robotic leg, the patella here, could operate a little bit like the real patella on your knee. Here's, as a reminder, this is the knee joint here. This is our point of articulation, which we're going to make it look into a nice looking joint and have everything moving around that point. So we'll also block out the patella, and for the patella we'll use a cube this time, a little bit smaller than that, and this time I'll snap it to the patch. So if we zoom in here, there's a little, you can see the patch topology on the leg, and that's where our patella needs to live. So I'm going to snap it right around there. Just scale her in a little bit. Maybe shift it along a little narrower. Drop in an edge through, maybe just one, give it a bit of a taper here. There. Just taper that in a little bit there. Alright, starting to get there. So we're just making these two guides, and we're about to take it into ZBrush, and we'll use these as our crucial starting point in ZBrush, and we're going to poly paint the design onto this leg. Okay, so here we are in ZBrush. As you can see, we've imported those guides we just made in Maya, and I am tracing around them using poly paint right now. I do have UVs on the legs. As you might know, with poly paint data, that's per vertex color, so we can add UVs at any point, not a problem. And the idea here is I'm looking at the concept, and I'm basically, replicating the concept in 3D on the legs themselves. And then once we've got this design sketched in, we can take it back into Maya, and we're going to trace. With vertices. We're going to retopo these legs, and we're going to trace this design onto our new topology. So yeah, I want to trace out the, everything. I really want to figure out what, exactly what we're building here. So we're doing it's like a 3D blueprint. Some of the stuff we will be detailing in ZBrush, and some of it we're gonna just build the framework in Maya. So once we're happy with this design, we will convert the poly paint data to texture. That's under the texture tab in ZBrush, and you'll find a poly painted texture option, and into Maya. Here we go. So here we have in Maya that texture map projected onto that same geo that we've exported out of ZBrush, and we're going to use that as our base mesh to project onto. And here we go. We activate the the mesh there as the mesh to snap to. Just starting with a cylinder, and here we go.
Summer in the hills, those hazy days I do remember. We were running still, had the whole world at our feet.
Now, once I have the basic shape of the leg, we're going to start sliding points around, tracing the texture design on the leg.
Couldn't keep us from the sea. Here we stand up in arms. This is home where we are, ever strong in the world that we made. I still hear you in the breeze, see your shadows in the trees, holding on, memories never change.
Trying to keep kind of the edge loops, etc., somewhat even so that we maintain the overall shape of the legs. So I'll split edges and add loops as needed to do this.
To the air when money low. If I did not have nothing else to give but love, would that even be enough? Tell me need to know. Now tell me would you really ride for me? Baby, tell me would you die for me? Would you spend your whole life with me? Would you be there always looking down? Tell me would you really cry for me? Baby, don't lie to me. If I didn't have anything, so I wanna know would you stick around?
Now, it becomes difficult sometimes to see like the design you're tracing out on your geometry, and I found that adding a material to the faces that you don't want anymore, you're ultimately going to delete. I'll add a material to them, and then that will help me to see those shapes easier, and then later select by that material and ultimately delete those faces. So it has a dual purpose. It enables me to kind of see the design easier when I turn everything else off, and it also enables me to isolate those faces and delete them. Now we've got the basic lattice work of our exoskeleton for our cybernetic leg here in place, but it's just a wafer thin kind of shell. In fact, it has no thickness. So we're going to extrude this to give it some dimension. Alright, I'm relatively happy with this. So now it's time for those good old bevels. We'll go through and just sharpen up some of these edges so it has a nice kind of machined quality. You know, I want a bevel and definite kind of a 3-plane change. So I'll go for a wide bevel and then also edge loop the outsides to keep that nice and crisp. As we move along here, I'm just taking random primitives and trying to flesh out the interior. As I go, I do have a logic in my brain, which is that the interior is comprised of a skeleton, like a human, and that would have attach points for pistons or new technology like flexible plastics that mimic muscles. That's kind of technology that's really out there, and I'm just kind of riffing on this stuff by looking at the internet for inspiration and making these various parts to fill in the spaces. And I think I will add more as in future episodes as I finish the model. We'll add little details here and there to the legs.
Check up, so you fucking sits up, hey, hey, stop, you know, put your fucking sits up,
Alright, I think that's good enough for this session. We've got ourselves here, you know, the basis of our high-res legs, which we are going to detail further in ZBrush. I'm imagining adding vents here, panel lines, rivets, all that kind of stuff. So this is our cage, this is our base mesh, and if we smooth it a little bit, you start to see where it's going to go. FYI, I will actually, before I take this into ZBrush, I will actually add a smooth modifier to it. And the reason I'm going to do that, and you can see it actually looks a lot better than the preview. The reason I'm going to do that is because ZBrush and Maya tessellate things differently. And so if I take the base mesh, this thing here, into ZBrush, it's not gonna give me the same results. So therefore, I smooth it in Maya and then export it out. and depending on how complicated the mesh is or how precise I want to be. In this case, we want to be precise or predictable results, so smooth it in Maya and then export to ZBrush. Okay, that wraps it up for this session. Next time, we're going to go back to Marvelous Designer because there are a few things that came up in the course of making the jacket and the skirt that I really think are worth touching on, and I think you guys might get something out of. And in other news, I am going to make this model available for download. So if any of you guys would like to get your hands on the ZBrush file, OBJs, etc., that will be available at the end of this project. And with that, happy modeling, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.